look, I'm a farmer, so I have to be an eternal optimist, and look at things optimistically and try and see the highlights and everything. I think it's a negative and it's a highlight as well. Over the last probably season and a half, together with Ilova, we engaged a group called Noodsberg, Ryan Giles and Peter Lyon, and we started a project we then termed Prime Cane, which was ideally to create an ecosystem of transport and milling cane. So from planting the stick to cutting it to making a shoe. Essentially creating a perfect world ecosystem that would allow everybody to remain viable, profitable, and continue growing into the future. It was a slick system, which failed because of some issues we had, which we will touch on later. But I think as the Grow to Grow group, when we hear the word prime cane, it's like a swear word at the moment. It's really not nice, because it was an idea that needed you to think outside the box, like really outside the box, and not see things the way you traditionally like to see them. We, as Germans, are a very proud people, and it's my tractor, it's my rig, I can't get to them all. So, those kind of conversations were the conversations you were having, because the prime cane idea looked at doing everything under one umbrella. The beauty of a yard is that it allowed this area, particularly Noodsberg grows, to deliver 6 days a week. As you will know, our area is it's a faith-based area, and we're very religious people. On Sundays we go to church. And that's what we do. We don't expect our employees to work, and we will not deliver cane on a Sunday. The world is changing at a rapid pace, and somewhere along the line we may have to adapt, but also not necessarily give up on some of the things. So we're not too keen to deliver cane on a Sunday, but we also understand the challenges of having to run a mill 24/7 and not having stock 24/7. So for that, a yard is an ideal thing, especially a yard that's 6,000 to 9,000 tons big. It gives you at least a day and a half scratch. And so it was an ideal system. And even though it affected our quality, it's something it's an opportunity cost we were willing to forego. Because we then didn't have to pay our labor double, we weren't working on a Sunday. We could go to church, and everybody else wants to go to church. Please feel free to go to church. We encourage you. And like I mentioned earlier, unfortunately it has its challenges with maintaining it and running it. But eventually it became a safety risk, because heisters started falling over, and there were issues with it. Chains inherently bring safety issues with them, and bundles and transporting and moving bundles as well. Inherently there's risk. So what's another way of doing it? And so we said, all right, cool, let's get together, we'll work on a project and we'll see how it goes. And we hired Leapfrog, Ryan Giles, who used to work with Crickmay, and I think he's an economist. I actually don't know what his full qualification is, but he's been involved in a lot of transport things. So he modeled something for us. Took everything we like and dislike, and he, together with Peter Lyon, modeled this perfect ecosystem for us. And for a miller cum planter, it's a perfect system. But a miller cum planter, in most cases, like Ilova, is literally, it's the mill who plants the cane and cuts the cane and delivers it. We are a very different situation here. We have 114 grower codes. Used to have 114 grower codes. Probably not 80. We at the time we were 114 grower codes, and with that, 114 grower codes, probably 80 growers, 80 different ideas, and every idea is the right idea, because I've been been doing it like this for so many years. I've been making money for so many years. And by the way, my grandfather did it like this too. So why should I change? And as we know, change is difficult. Change is, it's like someone in your family dying. It takes people a long time to adjust. And so we tackled it as a small group first, and the small group worked very hard at trying to address some of these things. We did trials. We brought slew loaders here. We did almost everything you could do as a trial in this project. We did. And then on the 28th of May, unfortunately, the high stuff fell over again. And 28th of May is probably a day nobody will forget. We may as well make it a public holiday now because it reminds us of this flippin' day. But on the 28th of May, high stuff fell over. The heist operator got injured. In our view, it was driver negligence that had happened. In Lobo's view, it wasn't driver negligence. It's a safety risk, and there's no option in closing the yard. So they closed the yard. All of a sudden, we had to change. And with that, we put a halt to a project we were looking at, and the project just collapsed. Because there's now a lot of frustration. Now it's an immediate change, where the project would have looked at a phased-in approach and let's make everything safer, let's make the road safer, let's change the whole system. And everything will be safer and everybody will be economic. Now all of a sudden we have to make these changes within a day. Today the yard was open, tomorrow it's closed. Half of the Noodsberg supply was bundled. So that's about 700,000 tons of cane that needed to move to a different system. Like we know, things don't happen overnight. So it impacts growers' pockets, guys who had to buy new equipment, guys who had to get hauliers in, and then there were limited hauliers. So it really became tough, and that's why when you say highlights, we don't have many highlights from last year. But we can certainly learn from things that went right and some that went wrong. So now we no longer have a yard. We now have a slab, which almost acts like a yard, which is wrong because it doesn't get tested. Everything in the yard used to be tested, unless it was older than 72 hours. Now, everything that's in the slab doesn't get tested, and because it's mixed cane, can't identify whose cane it is. So, yeah, there's a lot of challenges happening there at the moment. And then things that Ilona need to address and the board need to address. But yeah, so now it's 24/7 spiller. It's the only way you can live be okay. And there's other guys who now need to use hauliers. Hauliers haul can for profit. We haul can for profit, it was true, but it's not our business. Our core business is making profit out of the cane, not out of the transport. So you did it as economically and as efficiently as you could within your means. Now you have to pay a haulier who's doing it for his pocket. It's a lot more expensive than what you would have done in your own operation. We are a week in and we've had enough challenges for 2 months really. And I think that's where you have to go back to the last 4 seasons, prior to last year. Carryover. Ukraine-Russia war pushing fertilizer up 150%. And weather conditions last year really impacted the crop we had last year. I heard you guys talking about the estimating earlier. I think people may have, with all the carryover that they have, I mean, if you have 40% carryover, all of a sudden your fields aren't doing 100 tons a hectare, they may be doing 120 tons a hectare. So you see a field and you think, oh, well, it's 120 tons again. Actually, it's not back into normal cycles, so it may only be 100. So there may have been some error in calculating your estimate. I think what we also underestimated whether guys actually applied all the fertilizers that they should have applied. What returnability was reduced by mulching cane. A lot of growers mulch cane. We don't know what the effects of that were. Over and above that, the cane is lodged, particularly these new varieties, your N54s, they start pushing the roots on the nodes because they're so close to the ground and everything. It's ideal scenario to carry on growing. So yeah, it was really, again, I think we really underestimated what the carryover and maybe lack of fertilizer and the retenability had on the crop before the drought even started. So last year in February, rain, it was like a tap, just turned off. But I mean, especially the new varieties, annual cane, it needs some moisture in your winter months. If you go, particularly in this area, if you go into your winter dry, frost is a horrible. It makes it, your crop is stressed. If a frost comes in, then it's got no strength to resist that frost at all. And so I think that affected our crop. It's going to affect this year's crop because a lot of that cane wasn't harvested. And it's certainly going to make things challenging this year in terms of quality. I think that also impacted the quality last year because of frost. We are a frost-prone area, something we can't get away from. Unfortunately, we have varieties at the moment that do grow well and that can resist a frost or can withstand enough cold, so to say, and they grow fast enough so you can cut them annually. But those were really the challenges we had last year. I think the drought and getting out of carryover and getting back to a normal cycle made estimating and getting the crop accurate very difficult. So we saw, I think in Noodsberg we dropped 350,000 tonnes last year. Yeah. And I think making the most of what's in front of you and trying to be as accurate as you can with that. You must always use history to challenge your current scenario. Because history does show you how you have performed. And you can't go in and say, it looks like 180 tonnes. Realistically, with the same management you've been giving it, what have you been doing? The soil isn't going to change in one season from 100 tonnes to 140 tonnes. It's near impossible. So go back into your history, have good records. And if you have good records, then you can back up anything. So yeah, I'm all for being more accurate and being better with estimating. There needs to be a measure of, flexibility. Our data numbers are unfortunately picking up. I think a big contributing factor is carryover. It's also a little bit of mismanagement, and when I say mismanagement, I talk to all growers. I don't profess to manage anything perfectly, do my best, but I think it's also a little bit of mismanagement of varieties. Being an area that traditionally has a 22 to 24 month cutting cycle, we age our crop. Right? I think the newer varieties don't like being aged. The newer varieties, if you push them too far, that Aldana just gets in there. And you almost need to be strict with yourself and say, this variety is at 18 months. If it's older than 18 months, it's full of Aldana, don't cut it. And if you're then concerned about the RV quality, or ripen it, or take it out and plant a number. And that's a hard stance, and it's harsh, because replanting something is very expensive. And ripener may work, but ripener also stresses out the plant again, which makes it weak, which Aldana loves. So there's some challenges there, but I personally feel that some of your varieties, like N54, don't even take them past 16 months. They lodge too much, it gets difficult to cut, your quality is not worth its while. And N48, which is very susceptible to Aldana, don't let it get older than 18 months, or try at least. At 20 months, you're pushing it. But if you want to stay away from Aldana, don't give the Aldana a haven to stay in. But there's definitely a lot more awareness. And Gildana has always been there. Our new varieties have drawn a lot more of it. The aging of the crop and the carryover made it worse. But again, the season. I also love writing things, but I love tech. When I came back to the farm after being at varsity, I was like, yes, how cool would it be if your desktop or your desk that you work at becomes like a hologram. This is the field we're in, pull it in, zoom in and you get all the data. Because you have those things available. And why it isn't in our sugar industry blows my mind sometimes. You can literally take a field, get so much more data, and those things will cost a lot of money, and that's also probably why it isn't very prevalent in our industry. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what tech we can use, not to make things necessarily easier, but to be, again, like with the old data, more aware of things that happen. If you have something at the touch of a button, like you're in the field and you have the information on that field at the touch of a button, you can make a decision right there and then. You don't need to go back into the farm, check the manually recorded stuff that you need to manually re-enter again into your computer, and then what if your computer just spit it out? You can literally just stand in your field, see, hey, the field is performing to this. This is the fertilizer recommendation maybe we need, or I can communicate to the miller and say, Mr. Miller, sorry, the field was supposed to give me 100 tons a hectare, it's only giving me 80. And to have those things at the touch of a button and in the palm of your hand, how awesome is that? To know where your tracks are. And we all have tracker systems in our trucks. We spoke about the start to this season. I got to the yard the other day, got to the morning, 1:45 in the morning. There were probably 40 vehicles standing in the queue. That makes no sense. If we all have tracking systems in our vehicles that the miller has access to, and when he knows that that vehicle is loaded, then he can say, all right, Mr. Eggert, please don't come. We've got a problem at the moment. We already have 20 vehicles in the queue. If you send your truck too, well then 21 vehicles. And it just makes things worse, and then it snowballs. Like in any relationship, communication is key. And in this relationship, constant communication is key. And you don't want to get a WhatsApp message every 10 minutes, but you want to be able to know that if my truck's leaving the yard an hour, as in the farm, is it going to stand at the mill for 6 hours, and is my guy going to need a bed in his truck to sleep? Or do I have to do a shift change? So that I think with the digitization, you're going to eliminate a lot of those things. And that I really look forward to that. SAS Farms is really easy. You know what your farm looks like. You can answer questions sitting at your desktop and just answer them. You know what your labor records are, you know what your fuel records are, you know what your chemical records are. In fact, SAS Farms make it so easy for you, you just write the chemical in there. You don't even need to go back to the box and find out these are the active ingredients. SAS Farms tells you what they are. And it's a really good tool. And it's a good tool to, like you say, prep you for something that may come, but it doesn't get close to what may come, from what I have. Sugarcane runs through our blood, eh? Our blood's green not because of John Deere's we drive, but because of the cane we grow. I love sugarcane. It's a very forgiving crop, which makes it nice to run. And where we are, quite frankly, what else would we do?
Highlights of the 24-25 season. Some silver linings that we can focus on. I think definitely the Mtetwa brothers. During the early part of the year, it was actually, what was it? A year ago. It was a while ago. We supported the Mtetwa brothers with a cash flow to purchase a new farm, which they successfully did, and they have now, we lost one small-scale grower to becoming a commercial grower, so they're now, producing approximately 8,000 tons of cane, which is brilliant. A story that we did publish in the link at the latter part of 24. So and that, I must say, is extremely rewarding. Sitting in an office in a service-based environment, being able to see tangibly, the fruits of your labours is extremely rewarding. So we're very grateful for that, and for the growers too, to realise that benefit from the service that they get from Canegrowers, is also great. I think that is also, reinforces why we're here, and I think for them too, so we very happy about that, and I think that really embodies the nature of the grower group that we have here. They're hardworking, and under the challenges which we'll get to, and why I have so many grey hairs, but they have persisted, and they've grown under them. I suppose another silver lining from a small-scale grower perspective, with the closure of the mill yard, obviously all the small-scale growers are, or a significant majority of the small-scale growers deliver in bundle format. So, and they were really left stranded, just in terms of the terrain that they operate, to now change the whole inbound logistics system was, you would call it almost near impossible. Well, certainly I didn't have the brain capacity to try and comprehend a solution to that, but we were able to support them with another rate calculation to set up a zone outside the mill where they could then transload the bundles into a spiller format. By no means was it a perfect system, but I think operationally it definitely helped the grower group get majority of their cane in under the difficult circumstances. So I think that was definitely a success, and something that we could be proud of. So again, the pests are out there, and I think Sasri and the P&D team, we're very fortunate to have a very capable extension office here, as well as a P&D team, and they do exceptional work in the area, and it is obviously unfortunate that, specifically Aldana, the numbers are rising, and we've obviously had challenges with aged cane for a number of seasons, and I think that we're still feeling the impacts of that from an Aldana perspective, and I assume it will carry on for some time. And then I think there are other pests and diseases that we have to constantly keep an eye out for, and I think the growers are the Midlands North, so UCL and Noodsberg growers have got a very active P&D committee. So the grower groups are very active and out there and monitoring what's going on in their farms, and that filters back to the reporting of what's happening out there. So yes, and I'll say it tongue in cheek, we with the close of the mill yard and the inbound logistics challenges that we happened, if it wasn't for the drought, I'm sure the probability of carryover was going to be very likely. So so whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know, but if we had a good season, I'm very sure that Noodsberg would have had carryover again. I think really what we're doing is just getting trial growers, getting some trial growers. Noodsberg is one of the areas that is going to be trialing the system. And we're very fortunate. One of the service providers is based in Maritzburg, so they are very close to us. So from a support perspective, we're very fortunate. And then really just making sure that the objectives of what we are trying to achieve are captured in this project. And I think that's what's exciting about it is, there's a lot of technology out there, and the benefits that it can provide for growers from an administrative perspective is significant. I think definitely growers, going off on a tangent here, but with the industry looking at these different diversification initiatives, and from an administrative perspective, certification and all the administrative requirements that is going to put on growers, is significant. And if we can leverage the technology to reduce the burden for growers, and provide them good data at the end of the day, we have to do that. Successful season, consistent bull crush, we'll be happy with. Also, to have the consistent rains, not these high intensity rain events, but I suppose that's out of our control. But I think just a quiet season where the cane is crushed, we don't have any inbound logistics issues, and just a quiet season. I think that it's good news.